Here is the part of human history we tend to soften with romance. Many of the earliest declarations of attachment were built from materials that smells like crushed sage and mammoth fat had been alive the week before. They were shaped in smoke that stung the eyes and handed over with hands stained red from iron-rich earth. At the Upper Paleolithic site of Sungir in Russia, roughly 34,000 years ago, two individuals were laid to rest beneath an avalanche of more than 10,000 ivory beads, each one drilled, ground, and polished by hand. Independent experiments on replica beads suggest that producing such a number takes not hours, but months, perhaps years, of cumulative labor. It is difficult to think of a clearer statement that devotion and status were measured in time, and that time could be sewn into the very surface of a life. Across the European mainland, Neanderthal layers have yielded raptor talons with cut marks and polish, most famously in Croatia, objects that were likely strung as pendants. They do not speak words, but they carry an intelligible message. Attachment styled with the dangerous, counted in the rare. Far from any coastline, perforated marine shells lie in hearth debris. Someone carried them inland past ridge after ridge and then placed them on a wrist or around a neck where firelight could make their edges catch and flash. Love in the deep past was not a private whisper. It was a public construction made of gifts, jealousy, and rules, performed under firelight and stabilized by scent and song. What love could mean without diaries? Let's be careful. Love is a modern word with a suitcase full of meanings: romance, attachment, duty, lust, loyalty. Prehistoric people didn't leave us a glossary. What we can see are behaviors that cluster around long-term pair bonding, a durable emotional attachment, breeding partnerships, who raises the baby, and mating politics, jealousy, gifts, alliances. We also have biology. Human infants are helpless for an unusually long time. Mothers can't meet infant needs alone easily, and other parents, others who help, grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, friends, are common in forager societies. Those ingredients make certain kinds of love, not just erotic attraction, but attachment and care, more likely. Love in the Stone Age, then, is best pictured as a braided rope. Attraction, scent, voice, movement, exchange, gifts, help, food, and alliance, who has your back when things go wrong. Evidence for each strand survives in the oddest places. We don't have fossilized perfume, but we do have ochre, iron-rich pigment, on grinding stones and tools stained with fat and scent-bearing resins. Ochre shows up far back, well over 100,000 years ago in Africa and the Levant. Some of it was used for hafting and hide prep, yes, but some was ground fine and rubbed into hair and skin. Ethnographic parallels suggest ochre has a smell, metallic, earthy, and a feel, silky, and can signal identity, this band, those kin, and fertility, fresh skin color, a bit of shine. That isn't proof of romance, but it is proof of bodies being made to look, and likely smell, interesting. Anatomy doesn't fossilize melodies, but it does leave hints. The modern human vocal tract allows a rich range of vowels and pitches. By the Upper Paleolithic, we find flutes, delicate bird bone instruments with carefully spaced finger holes, alongside hearths and ornaments. Music likely helped coordinate group emotion, campfire synchrony, but also courtship. In living forager groups, singing and dancing often mark community events where young people meet. You can imagine a dusk clearing, rhythm on log or bone, call and response across the glow. Attraction is the spark that jumps that gap. The beadwork alone is hard to ignore. Ostrich eggshell beads in Africa, marine shells dozens or hundreds of kilometers from the sea, ivory pendants in Eurasia polished by longwear. These don't just decorate, they identify. In many small-scale societies, the way you tie a bead or paint a cheek whispers who you are and where you belong. In mating terms, that matters. Love flourishes in recognition and collapses in confusion. Who are your people is as old as fire. Gifts sound romantic now. flowers, rings. But in the Stone Age, gifts were survival tech for social life. If you give me good stuff when times are easy, I will help you when they're hard. That logic underwrites what anthropologists call delayed return economies. Food shared today earns credit tomorrow. Romantic gifts piggyback on that system. We see the bones of this in trade networks. In the European Upper Paleolithic, high-quality flint moved long distances, sometimes 200 kilometers from source. Marine shells ride inland, pigments move outward from quarries. These quiet caravans made alliances, some likely sealed by marriages or visiting partners. Exogamy, marrying out, helps prevent inbreeding and ties bands together. Genetic studies at later Upper Paleolithic sites suggest bands avoided close-kin pairings and moved mates between groups, likely through arranged exchanges or courtship visits. That doesn't read like modern romance, but it absolutely reads like one of love's jobs, to stitch two families into something that can stand winter. There's a practical love gift too: food. Costly signaling is the idea that you prove quality by doing something expensive in time and risk. A young hunter brings in a large carcass. Most of it gets shared. He hasn't lost the calories. He's bought reputation and visibility. In some societies today, those who share the most are the most eligible. Stone Age love might have looked like this: a woman watching who returns with meat and who returns with stories, a man noticing who can turn a hide into a windproof parka, who can find berries when everyone else walks past green leaves, each watching who helps with children who aren't theirs. The gift is the signal. The signal is a promise. I can care for us. Sometimes gifts were almost certainly literal love tokens. The polish on some pendants suggests constant wear against skin. The holes are tiny, the edges smoothed where a thong or sinew ran. A thumb's nervous rub has a way of rounding corners. Was that necklace for a child? A sister? A lover? The archaeology can't always tell, but the body knows what it means to carry someone's work against your chest. Alliance, jealousy, rivalry, and the politics of firelight. Here we have to tread carefully. Love is tender, it is also territorial. The fossil record is silent on grit-in-the-stomach feelings, but ethnography, animal behavior, and a few stark bones give us a view. First, the logic. A long-term pair bond plus a community of other pairs plus a set of helpers equals a social machine that works. Until it doesn't. If investment in offspring is high, and it is in humans, then paternity certainty for men and partnership certainty for women become valuable commodities. That sets the stage for jealousy, fear of losing a partner or resources, and rivalry, competing for a desirable partner. None of this implies universal violence. It does imply norms. I saw him leave her shelter after dark isn't just gossip in a small camp. It's a political event. Do we have any direct evidence? We have hints. There are skulls with trauma that healed. Someone cared for that person. And a smaller number with trauma that didn't. Someone struck and no one kept them alive. In one Upper Paleolithic site, a triple burial includes a young man laid between two others, all decorated and arranged. Whatever that meant locally, it wasn't indifference. At some Mesolithic and later sites, arrow injuries suggest conflict. Are those love triangles? We can't say. But we can say that where there is alliance, there is the possibility of fracture. And humans everywhere tell stories to manage it. Rules about who can marry whom, how soon, what gifts must be given, who mediates disputes. Love needed law, even when law was just elders at a fire. The alliance bit isn't only about defense, it's about growth. When bands exchange partners, they also exchange news, genes, and techniques. Consider the way ostrich eggshell beads in Africa show regional styles. Those styles are arguments, soft, bright ones, about identity, and interacting styles suggest visiting and mingling. Love is in that traffic. A marriage might mean one fewer body at a given hearth and one more string to the wider web. The web is what catches reindeer when a river changes course. It's what catches you when the mammoths don't come back. The baby at the centre, why love had to thicken. Every story of Stone Age love runs up against the same logistics problem. Babies are expensive. Human infants are born early, in developmental terms, and require constant care for years. Milk has to come from somewhere, and calories have to support lactation. In most forager groups, mothers receive help from partners and kin, cooperative breeding. Grandmothers matter, older siblings matter, friends matter. That system can't work without trust, and trust usually rides friendships and kinship ties, love in the broad sense. When you picture Stone Age romance, add a laughing toddler into the frame, and a grandmother who whispers advice, and a teenage aunt who would rather go dance but still picks up the baby when it cries. This, too, is love. There's a quiet, biological echo of this in bones and teeth. Some skeletons show long childhoods, slow growth, and chemical signatures in teeth can reveal extended weaning, indicating nursing and shared food for years. That's a deep investment spread across bodies. And without attachment between adults, it would wobble. A distracted joke, it takes a village to raise a child, is, in the Stone Age, a survival algorithm. And love, pair-bonded, familial, friendly, keeps the algorithm from crashing. Firelight, where feelings rehearse themselves. Take a long, dark evening. The day's work is done. Firelight is warm but limited. It turns faces into islands, voices into ropes between islands. This is where so much human culture stabilizes. Stories, rules, praise, teasing, song. It's also where courtship became rehearsal. Who makes whom laugh? Who tells a story that makes your scalp prickle? Who can sit in silence without fidgeting? Neuroscience today will tell you that synchronized laughter and song align, breathing and heart rate nudge neurochemistry toward trust. The Stone Age didn't have that vocabulary, but it had the effect. Around a small fire, you can tell who fits. Archaeology supports this indirectly. Hearths are central in many sites, reused, rebuilt, cleaned. The distribution of artifacts suggests activity areas around heat and light. And there is something else. Communal items, like large grinding stones or heavy anvils, placed where several people could gather. The arrangement says, this is where we do things together. Love rarely grows in isolation. It grows where eyes meet and hands help. Desire and the hunt, risky theatrics, quiet competence. We're tempted to make Stone Age love into a single play. The male hunter as showy provider, the female gatherer as steady homemaker. Parts of that script show up in the data, but reality is more variegated. Some women hunted small and medium game. Some men were exceptional at plant knowledge. Everyone knew fire. Still, sexual signaling almost certainly tracked some gendered skills because those skills mapped onto infant survival. If you could dress hides well, your partner and children were warmer. If you could read tracks, your band ate more often. People noticed. Risky theatrics, the dramatic hunt, the river crossing, broadcast courage and coordination. Quiet competence, the perfectly stitched seam, the knack for finding honey, broadcast foresight and patience. It's hard not to see those behaviours as courtship in the broad sense. Being chosen in the Stone Age wasn't just being beautiful, it was being believable. And then there's play. Children's play in forager groups often mimics adult tasks. Small bows, tiny carrying bags, imitation cooking. That means skill is practiced in joy and watched by peers. The first crush may have been watching someone nail a perfect throw or start a fire with damp tinder. A bit shocking, maybe less shocking than jewelry, but more honest. People fall for what is useful and delightful. The swear you can smell part, with caution. A quick tour through scent without overpromising. Humans don't have pheromones in the strict insect sense, but body odor absolutely carries information. Diet changes smell. Health changes it. Ovulation may or may not be obvious. The evidence is mixed. What's solid is that people everywhere use scented resins, smoke, fats, and plants in grooming. In the Stone Age, smoking clothing over a particular wood or rubbing resin into hair wasn't just practical, bug repellent, it was style. Style is code. Code can tell a potential partner, I am from the Pine Valley, I am clean, I am careful. If you think modern dating is subtle, try reading smoke. The hard edges? Loss, betrayal, and repair. No story of love is complete without its failures. We have graves of young mothers and infants together. We have skeletons that show care until it wasn't enough. We have occasional violence. We have departures we can't see but can guess at. The important thing isn't to romanticize prehistory as gentle or to demonize it as brutal. It's to notice how much labor went into keeping bonds from breaking. Repair mechanisms likely included ritual, gifts to heal rifts, public apology, humor can do this, formal exchanges, compensation in meat or ornaments, and mobility. If a pair failed publicly, one might move to a sister band. What we see in the artifacts, enduring styles over regions, repeated use of shared campsites, suggests that on average, groups found ways to stay linked through storms. Love's competence, not merely its heat, is what left a mark. The myth, we should retire, briefly. There's a popular picture of Stone Age mating as either a cartoon of violent abduction or an equally cartoonish free love Eden with no jealousy and effortless sharing. Both are fantasy. The evidence supports something more human, a mix of negotiated pair bonds, visiting partnerships, exogamous exchanges between bands, rules to limit conflict, and real feelings that drove both generosity and guarding. In other words, not a mythic extreme but a spectrum, messy, managed, meaningful. The tenderness we can actually see. What does tenderness look like in bone? It looks like a healed fracture in an adult who couldn't have hunted alone for months. It looks like a child interred with a favorite shell. It looks like the careful arrangement of the dead at sites where bodies were not simply discarded. It looks like toothwear in older people who were still fed. It looks like needles, fine ones, suggesting tailored clothing, which is the difference between a miserable winter and a survivable one. None of that proves romance, but all of it proves care, and care is love's busiest verb. Scenes you can almost touch. Imagine late autumn on a river terrace. Salmon runs have dwindled. The camp is packing to follow deer into higher valleys. A young pair sits with a hide stretched between their knees. They joke about where to stitch and who will forget the awl. The woman's wrist carries a tiny bone pendant from her mother's band. The man's spear thrower is carved in a style from upstream. They are, in the most literal sense, braided. Around them, a grandmother scolds, a child sings nonsense vowels, someone drops a coal and yelps. Love isn't a private room, it's a practice in public. Now, a summer morning on a grassland. The insects are loud. A group nears a stand of berry bushes known to ripen early. Two teens slow down on purpose. One has been learning a song, half lullaby, half brag. The other carries a pouch with a few beads. They don't swap them yet. They pick berries and hide smiles. Later, they will stand too close and someone will tease them. Later still, a half-serious discussion will happen between older kin. Gifts will cross a clearing. The world changes in small negotiations, not thunderclaps. And then a winter eve. Bitter wind outside, fat sizzling on a flat stone inside. Stories are told in order. The trickster tale first, the hunting near miss, the time a neighbour band's boy fell through ice and a woman grabbed him by the hair and saved his life. In the pause after laughter, an elder speaks the rule again. Share meat fairly, take care where you lay your hand, keep your word when the river rises. Because love in the Stone Age wasn't a feeling with a violin soundtrack, it was a set of behaviours that made those rules livable. What about Neanderthals? The honest answer is they almost certainly loved in ways recognizable to us. Neanderthals cared for injured group members, buried their dead at some sites, and lived in small, kin-centric bands. Genetic evidence shows they and modern humans interbred. Biology doesn't mix unless bodies choose each other somehow. The specifics of their courtship are opaque, but give a group repeated evenings, songs, and work shared, and you'll get attachment. The recipe is basic: time, attention, risk, repair. They had all four. Humour, but only where it belongs. A tiny allowance for levity. Imagine the first Meet the Parents. It probably involved fewer forks, but the anxious scrubbing of hands in cold water, the way a young person rehearses a joke in their head and then butchers the punchline. Those are old. Our nervous systems didn't evolve in restaurants. They evolved at the edge of fires. If someone once grinned too wide and dropped a berry cake into the ashes during an introduction, they have our sympathy across time. The strange truth about romance and engineering. It can feel deflating to reduce love to costs and signals, but the alternative is worse: pretending love is magic that doesn't behave. The Stone Age teaches a kinder lesson. Romance is an exquisitely engineered solution to a brutally practical problem: how to raise impossibly dependent offspring in unpredictable environments without going mad with loneliness. The engineering drew on everything available: rhythm, color, smell, food, gifts, rules, teasing, and time. It produced pair bonds many of the time, not all, friendships most of the time, not all, and wider alliances enough of the time to keep lineages alive. When it failed, people tried again. When it worked, it felt like relief and brightness, and the sense that tomorrow was survivable. We want the Stone Age to hand us a single, perfect love story. Two bodies arranged hand in hand under the earth, a necklace locked forever around a neck. Sometimes, very rarely, we get something like it. Double burials with care, ornaments clasped for thousands of years. But the real epic is quieter. It's the accumulation of ordinary gestures turned into durable habits: pigment on skin, a song learned well, meat shared fairly, small gifts passed between families, a baby soothed by 3 different voices in the same hour. These are the oldest love letters. They didn't need words to say what they meant. If you went back there, if a time machine put you down at the edge of a camp, you'd be lost for a while. The smells would be wrong, the rules opaque, the humor too quick for you. But if you waited, the pattern would reveal itself. Someone would tease someone else, and the blush would look familiar. Someone would risk something for someone else, and your chest would tighten in recognition. At night, the right two voices would find each other in the net of singing. In the morning, the same two would share a task without speaking. Love is not modern, it's human. And the shock is not that we invented it late, with poetry and lockets. The shock is that we already had it when we were wearing beads of shell and dusting our hair with ochre. We had it when winter bit hard and when summer made the grass smell sweet. We had it before we had cities to hide it in and scripts to name it. The artifacts we've found, filed teeth glowing in a smile, a pendant worn smooth by a collarbone, a hearth rebuilt again and again, are not evidence of luxury. They're evidence of priority. Of all the improbable, extravagant things our ancestors could have chosen to invest in, they chose each other. That is the simple, durable secret. Love didn't make the Stone Age easier. It made it possible.